The flight attendant's voice cut through the cabin's hum, sharp and unyielding. "Sir, I need you to move to seat 32B. We have a family that must sit together, and yours is the only seat available." Samuel Okoye, an elderly man with a weathered face and a subtle limp, looked up from his aisle seat, the one he'd paid extra for months ago, a necessity due to a war injury that still haunted his left knee. "I booked this for medical reasons," he said, his voice low but steady. The attendant, Amara, didn't flinch. "If you don't move, we can't close the doors." Samuel's jaw tightened. Slowly, he rose, gripping the armrest for balance, and limped down the aisle to a cramped middle seat, pain flaring with every step. But what happened next transformed the meaning of that flight forever. Welcome to Giddy Tales, where stories of compassion and courage light up the human spirit. Let's dive into what unfolded on that plane. At dawn, the air in Terminal C of Lagos Murtala Muhammad Airport buzzed with the restless energy of early travelers. Samuel Okoye, 78, sat at gate 27, his hands folded, his posture a quiet testament to a life of discipline. Dressed in a faded green jacket, dark trousers, and scuffed shoes, he carried the weight of age and history. His limp was subtle but unmistakable, a relic of a battlefield long ago. Samuel had booked this flight 3 months earlier, heading from Port Harcourt to Abuja to witness his granddaughter's graduation from the Nigerian Defense Academy, the first in their family to follow his military path. Seat 14C, an aisle seat in premium economy, wasn't a luxury. It was a lifeline, offering just enough space to ease his aching knee. He boarded early, murmured a polite "thank you" to the gate agent, and settled in with a sigh of relief. Then the commotion began. 3 rows ahead, a passenger flagged down a flight attendant. Amara, in her crisp uniform, approached with a practiced smile, her name tag glinting. She tapped her tablet, her expression tightening, then turned and walked straight to Samuel. "Excuse me, sir, are you in 14C?" she asked, crouching slightly. Samuel nodded. "Yes, ma'am." Her voice softened but held firm. "We have a family, a mother with 2 young children, split across 3 rows. Your seat, along with the 2 beside it, is the only block where they can sit together." Samuel's brow creased. "This is my assigned seat. I booked it for a service-connected knee injury." Amara's smile held, but her pause was heavy. "I understand, sir. We'd appreciate your cooperation. It's just for this flight." Samuel leaned back, the silence thick. He wasn't stubborn, but this seat was his shield against 5 hours of agony. He glanced forward. A mother cradled a toddler, 2 other children hovering nearby. Then he looked at his scarred hands. "What's the alternative?" he asked quietly. Amara tapped her tablet. "Seat 32B. It's further back. Middle row." Samuel blinked. A middle seat, cramped, no legroom, wedged between strangers near the lavatories. He knew the layout too well. "I'm sorry," he said, voice calm but resolute. "My leg won't survive back there." Amara's smile thinned. "I understand, sir, but we need to seat this family together. If you don't move, we may delay the flight." The words landed like a quiet threat. Eyes turned toward him, the cabin growing still. Samuel felt the weight of judgment, an old man refusing to help a family. He met Amara's gaze. "This isn't right," he said softly. "I'll note that, sir," she replied. "But I need a decision." A long breath passed. Samuel unbuckled his seatbelt, stood stiffly, and said, "Name Samuel Okoye, Staff Sergeant, Nigerian Army, retired. I'm giving up a medically necessary seat under pressure. Let that be recorded." Amara nodded, already signaling the family forward. As Samuel limped to 32B, the toddler grinned at him. Samuel returned a gentle nod. No bitterness, just resignation. Seat 32B was a cage. Sandwiched between a young student lost in his earphones and Mr. Chukwu, a businessman claiming the armrest, Samuel lowered himself carefully, his knee screaming. The overhead light flickered, the air heavy with the scent of disinfectant and stale coffee. He closed his eyes, hands resting on his lap, and tried to will the pain away. No one spoke. No one offered help. But someone was watching point 3 rows ahead. Nkechi Adewale, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, sat with her laptop closed, her blazer folded neatly beside her. She'd overheard everything. The exchange, the quiet coercion, the old man's dignified protest. Now, she watched Samuel, hunched in that tight seat, his face etched with deeper lines. She pulled out her phone, not to post or vent, but to send a message to a friend in the airline's customer relations. Her words were brief. Passenger Samuel Okoye forced from seat 14C despite medical need. Now in 32B, flight 306. Crew dismissive. Escalate. She hit send, glanced at Samuel, and turned to the window. Some moments demanded action. Even if no one else moved, in 32B, Samuel sat still, his knee throbbing. The student's music bled through his earphones. Mr. Chukwu's elbow encroached further. Samuel wasn't angry, just weary. He'd known invisibility before, the kind that comes with age and sacrifice. Nkechi, watching from the corner of her eye, noticed his hands, knuckles thick, one finger crooked from an old wound. They were steady, but tense, holding something in grief, perhaps, or quiet defiance. The cabin crew bustled through final checks, ignoring Samuel. No apology, no glance. Nkechi's phone buzzed. Forwarded to ops. Unacceptable. Notifying cabin if escalated. She didn't expect miracles, but she'd done what she could. The cabin doors thudded shut. The safety briefing droned on, but Samuel's mind was elsewhere. On the crack of gunfire, the weight of a fallen comrade, the moment his knee shattered in a Boko Haram ambush decades ago. He shifted, wincing, his leg pressed awkwardly against the seat back. Mr. Chukwu's elbow stayed planted. Samuel stayed silent. In the cockpit, Captain Adebayo Musa, a former Air Force officer with 11,000 flight hours, adjusted his headset. His co-pilot ran through pre-flight checks when a red alert flashed on the console. Passenger concern. Samuel Okoye, Flight 306. Veteran forced from medically necessary seat. The name below it caught his eye. Nkechi Adewale, a Diamond Elite passenger and PR board advisor. Adebayo's jaw tightened. "Hold the taxi," he said, unbuckling. His co-pilot blinked. "Captain?" But Adebayo was already moving. 3 minutes, he said, stepping into the corridor. He signaled Ezen, the senior flight attendant. "Who moved the passenger from 14C? Ezen hesitated. "A man was relocated for a family. He's in 32B. Adebayo nodded, adjusted his gold-striped cuffs, and strode down the aisle. The cabin felt his presence. Phones lowered. Murmurs faded. Nkechi saw him first, her breath catching as he stopped at row 32.
Samuel, eyes half open, froze as a shadow fell over him. Captain Adebayo Musa stood tall, his uniform crisp, silver wings gleaming. Without a word, he raised his right hand in a sharp, formal salute. The cabin went silent. Samuel's eyes searched the captain's face, confusion giving way to something deeper. "Staff Sergeant Samuel Okoye," Adebayo said, his voice ringing clear. "On behalf of Transcontinental Airlines, and as a fellow serviceman, I offer my deepest apologies. You should not have been asked to move. It was a mistake, and we'll make it right." Whispers rippled through the plane. Adebayo turned. "Is Ms. Amara in the cabin?" Amara stepped forward, pale. "Yes, sir. You will escort Staff Sergeant Okoye to seat 1A, he said. Amara faltered. "First class is. If 1A is occupied," Adebayo cut in, "ask for a volunteer. If no one steps up, inform them the captain requests that seat for a decorated veteran." Samuel started to stand, but Adebayo raised a hand. "Please let us fix this. We owe you." Nkechi watched, her throat tight, as Samuel rose, his knee buckling. Adebayo steadied him with a gentle hand. Mr. Chukwu shifted awkwardly. The student pulled off his earphones, eyes downcast. As they moved toward the front, Adebayo glanced at Nkechi, their eyes meeting in silent understanding. The cabin seemed to hold its breath. To row 1. Amara approached the man in 1A, a polished executive sipping bottled water. "Sir, we need to reassign your seat," she said. He blinked, confused, then saw Samuel, the worn duffel, the tired eyes, the quiet strength. "It's an honor," he said softly, standing without protest. Samuel dipped his head, gratitude flickering in his gaze. Adebayo spoke again, loud enough for the front rows to hear. "If that seat hadn't been offered, I'd have given up my co-pilot's jump seat. And if that wasn't available, I'd have given mine." The words weren't just for Amara, they were for everyone. Samuel settled into the wide leather seat of 1A, the space a balm to his aching knee. The crew brought a blanket, water, an apology. But it was a voice from the aisle that stopped his heart. A man in his late 30s stood, shaved head, jeans, and a hoodie. "Staff Sergeant Okoye," he said, voice trembling. "I served under you. Maiduguri, 2006. Samuel stared, then softened. "Corporal Chaik Nwosu." The man's voice broke. "You saved my life. We never got to thank you." Tears fell as he nodded and sat, overcome. The cabin's silence turned sacred. Adebayo stepped to the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice boomed, "a mistake was made today. A man who served this nation, who carries its scars, was asked to give up his seat, not due to error, but a policy that valued convenience over honor." He paused, letting the words sink in. "Staff Sergeant Samuel Okoye fought in Borno, Nigeria. He's worn the uniform longer than most of us have lived. He didn't ask for favors, just the seat he booked to ease a wound from service. We failed him. But we don't leave our own behind. Not in battle, not at 30,000 feet." The cabin erupted in applause, soft at first, then swelling like a tide. Samuel sat still, seen at last. Nkechi wiped a tear, her faith in humanity reignited. The plane landed in Abuja under a golden noon sky. As passengers rose, Samuel stayed in 1A, hands calm on his knees, no longer invisible. At the jet bridge, Nkechi touched his shoulder. "You reminded us who we're meant to be," she whispered. His granddaughter, in a crisp midshipman's uniform, waited at baggage claim, holding a sign. "Welcome, Grandpa Samuel." She dropped it and ran, hugging him fiercely. "Your knee," she gasped. "I've had worse," he said, his smile reaching his eyes for the first time in years. They talked for hours, her dreams, his stories. Later she saw a video online of Adebayo's speech and wept, holding him tight. A week later, a letter arrived from Transcontinental Airlines. A formal apology, a full refund, and a card naming Samuel a lifetime guest of honor. He folded it beside the flag in his study, silent. 2 weeks later, another envelope came, hand-addressed, from the Nigerian Army's Office of Military Records. A retired officer had reopened Samuel's file after a public inquiry, uncovering a 1988 report from Borno. It detailed how Staff Sergeant Samuel Okoye, knee shattered by shrapnel, pulled 6 wounded soldiers from a burning vehicle under enemy fire. The file, lost in bureaucracy, was now restored. A handwritten note followed, signed by General Emeka Obi. "Samuel, I was one of those soldiers. You don't know me, but I've carried you in my heart since. I made a life because you refused to let go. Thank you." Samuel sat with the letter, the silence heavy with meaning. In Abuja, Nkechi typed the story. Samuel Adebayo, the salute that turned a flight into a reckoning. It spread from local papers to national news. The image of Samuel in 1A, sunlight on his hands, a symbol of remembrance. He didn't change much. Still limped to his Port Harcourt mailbox, still drank his coffee black. But he walked taller, smiled at dusk, knowing he'd been seen. Not all sacrifices earn medals. Not all battles wave banners. But sometimes one voice saying, "We remember," turns a seat into something sacred. A return to dignity, a return to home. In our darkest moments, kindness finds a way, often in the quietest places. This is Giddy Tales, where justice shines, heroism endures, and no act of courage is ever forgotten.